Thinking
So,
about
Mustafaa, I looked into, do we have a minute still?
Yeah.
I looked a bit again into Ajrumiyya and saw a difference, like at the beginning when it talks about ism, it explains ism by the endings of it. So is this book gonna get into that later too?
It explains it by the endings of it.
Yeah, how to know the ism.
Yeah, but it's not by the
Like in
ending.
this book.
فالاسم يعرف بالخفض والتنوين والدخول الألف واللام والحروف الخفض. So
yeah, what's خفض? خفض is
jar, same thing. Just
right.
The Basriyun say jar and the Kufiyun say khafd. It's the same word.
That's the ending of the word, right?
No, that means kasra. That it takes kasra, basically. Right?
Right.
So it takes the place
at the end of the word.
Yeah, but you got be al-khafd wa tanween. Tanween is at the end of a word, but alif wa lam
at the beginning
of a word, and huruf al-khafd is at the beginning of a word, meaning min wa ila wa an wa ala wa fi rubba wal ba wa kaf wa ta. So there's signs that take place at the beginning of a word and signs that take place at the end of a word.
Right.
Will this book get into that? Yeah. When it comes to that section with jar and nasb and all that, it's going to get into that for sure. It's just not going to get into it in the same order as Al-Ajrumiyya. But it definitely gets into it. Definitely gets into it. And whatever, I'm able to, I'll throw it in there. The point is to learn Ajrumiyya is going to be great for you, but it doesn't matter what you learn. You understand? If you learn Ajrumiyya, or you learn AL-WADIH, or you learn Qatrul Nada, or you learn just some other grammar book, it doesn't matter as long as you learn some grammar. You know what I mean?
Or it's just easier to recognize now what they mean. When we went through it with Abdul Hakim, the beginning of it.
For sure.
It didn't make much sense because, I mean, it made a little bit sense because we did Medina before that, but now that we are doing this and looking at that and going back and forth, it makes a lot more sense what they were trying to explain.
That's what's going to happen. You know, I had a guy tell me a long time ago, 20 years ago, close to 20 years anyway, 17, 16 years ago, that learning a language is like throwing mud on a wall and your goal is to cover that whole wall with mud. And you're going to throw some mud and some of it's going to stick and some of it ain't. And you're going to throw another ball and you're going to try to hit a strike like next to, meaning right next to where you just hit. And you're going to miss, and you're going to throw it 4 feet over, and you're going to have all kinds of, blotches and stuff is going to fall off, and, but if you just keep throwing mud, eventually you're going to cover up that wall. And no one book is going to teach you everything you need. And so you just have to go through, various books, and you have to go through the same book with various teachers. I actually have about 10 explanations of Ajrumiyya on my shelf. And I try to read them all side by side. And man, you got one called Aysar al-Shuruh, the easiest of explanations. And it's easy. Like, you read that with Ajrumiyya, you be like, man, I got this down pat. And then you read Abdurrahman al-Qasim's, and you be like, man, I don't know nothing. You know what I mean? So it's just what they introduce. It's what, what they bring in, when they bring it, how they bring it. Different things make sense at different times. Sometimes you hear something, the Quran is supposed to be the most effective book on the heart. And sometimes you read an ayat and it doesn't affect you. And then sometimes you read a statement of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz and you like, dang, man, I need to get myself together. You know what I mean? So,
No.
I mean, it just happens like that, man, where you do this. But the more you do AN-NAHW, the clearer Ajurumiyya is going to be. And if you read Ajurumiyya at the same time, AN-NAHW, when you come to those points, is going to make it clearer. So they're going to go hand in hand and help one another, you know. But, yeah, I mean, when you get there, like I said, it's al-khaf والتنوين والدخول الألف واللام والحروف الجر, which is min, wa ila, wa an. These two appear before a verb, a noun, and these two appear after a noun, you know? So there's signs for before and there's signs for after. The same when it comes to the fill. There's qad, wa sin, wa sofa, wa ta, ta'nith, sakina, right? These three appear before. This one is after, right? These two are past tense, right? And, no. Yeah, these two are past tense, and these three are present tense. And, you know, there's all different ways to start looking at it, you know? The issue is, like I was saying, in doing this grammar stuff where it becomes difficult is, how do I know if I can say qad istaghfara? You know, how do I know if I can say that? You know? Or how do I know if I can't say qad Muhammad? You know, how do I know if I can say that or not? If you're not an Arab, you might not know that you can. Now, if I tell you qad only comes before a verb, then when you see qad, you'll know, as long as you memorize that rule, that the next word is a verb. It's not a noun. But if I were to tell you to make a sentence, can qad go before it, you wouldn't necessarily be able to know that part, you know, until you learn the rule. And so therefore, there's a little bit of a deficiency and a little bit of handicap for learning the Arabic grammar. And we don't know Arabic fluently, but that doesn't mean we don't learn something from it. We just don't busy ourselves completely with it. And that's why we only do this once a day, once a week, and we read the rest of the week, because all of this is going to come in handy, you know, inshallah ta'ala. So we'll begin. We got 45 minutes left. This is the AN-NAHW class 4. We are doing the fa'il. The fa'il, which means the doer, right? And basically, when we're talking about this stuff, and you'll see down below, or on the next page over here that I started writing on for us, inshallah, that when we're talking about something, we got a scale set up here. That's not it. You got a scale, right? Whatever we do, for instance, if we start out with fa'ala, then our verb, for instance, jalasa, it makes it level, it makes it even, right? But if I change, for instance, to yaf'alu, then I change this to yaj. First off, it wouldn't work. If I change this to yaf'ilu, this becomes yajlisu, right? It has to match. So fa'il is basically what we're going to do to the verb, and we're going to make it say jalis, so that we're on the same scale, right? The one who's sitting, the jalis, right? The one who is sitting. The fa'il is the one who is doing something. So, tara, which means to fly, al-usfur, Darul Usfur. Usfur is a, what's the word? Canary, maybe, right? Or a small bird, right? I think it's a canary, but it could be just any small bird. So Darul Usfur. We have a verb. Anytime we have a verb, when we're talking about Arabic grammar, when we're getting into the technical things, the first thing we say a verb, we need to figure out, is it past, present, or a command? That's the first thing we want to figure out. And we'll get there when we start doing i'rab. I'rab is where we say this is a past tense verb, and its sign is a fatha, and blah, 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 blah. You know, fi'l madi mamsu, fi'l madi mabni ala al-fath. Blah, 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 right? All the stuff that you have to learn when you start doing it raw, which is like breaking down a sentence. Okay, so the first thing we want to look at, that there's a verb. But as soon as we have a verb, we're going to have a file, even if that file is not mentioned. For instance, a lot of times we see a sentence where, as yesterday, for instance, in the hadith, he said something to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet called, and then he answered. The file here is huwa, even if it's not written. He said, even if it's not written, the file is going to be huwa, meaning Muhammad ﷺ, because it was mentioned previously. But now we're talking about a brand new sentence, so we need to have a file, because we don't have any previous sentence above it. We don't have any previous information about that sentence. So we say Tara al-Usfur, the sparrow or the canary, the small bird, flew, right? So for instance, if I were to ask you, Ain al-Usfur, where is the Usfur? And you said Tara, I understood Tara al-Usfur. Even if you didn't say Tara al-Usfur, you just said Tara. You said it flew. Wait, Ain al-Usfur, Tara, it flew. Like it flew away. I don't have to say al-Usfur here because it was mentioned in the sentence previously, so the information is known. But here we're talking about brand new sentences with brand new information. We must mention the fa'il, the doer. So Tara al-Usfur, the canary flew. Number 2, Abdullah.
Jarayal Hisan.
Now this is going to be just skipped over. Jaral, if you say jara,
Okay.
normally, but since you have this being sukoon and this, you're going to say jaral hisan. Jaral hisan. Jara means to run, as we saw before. Jaral kalb. Jaral hisan. The horse ran. The horse here is the fa'il. The horse here is the doer of the verb. Who ran? Al-Hisan. Right? Zubair, read the next one.
لعب الولد.
La'iba. La'iba, he played. La'ibahu al-walad. Right? La'iba al-walad. And we see, go ahead, never mind, we'll finish. La'ib al-walad. If Yasin, if you could type, is your mic, do you have the headset yet where it doesn't feedback, or do you want me to skip you for now? I'll skip you till you answer, inshallah. Ya'umu samak. Ya'umu as-samak. Ya'umu is to swim or floats. Right? To swim or to floats. As-samak is a fish. So the fish swims, the fish floats, however you want to translate it, right?
I hope to say he's swimming and I hope he's not floating.
Right. Inshallah. Okay, he said next Thursday he'll get back his laptop. Inshallah. So Ya'umu as-samak. The fish swims. Right? Swims. Number 5, Abdullah.
I guess that's that here. Sa'ul Ba'ud.
Naam. Al-ba'ud is a mosquito, right? A mosquito. Yalsa'u is to sting or to bite. The mosquito stings or it bites, right? However you want to word it, right? Yalsa'u al-ba'ud. Yalsa'u al-ba'ud. The mosquito bites. In Zubair number 6.
تأكل البنت.
Naam. Ta'kulul bint. The girl eats. The girl eats. Here we see we have a past tense verb in all three of these. Verse 1, 2, 3, they're past tense. Tara, jara, la'iba. In this one we have present tense verbs, right? Ya'umu, yalsa'u, wa ta'kulu. They're all present tense verbs. But we see the fa'il in each one of them has a dhamma. Each one of them, the fa'il has a dhamma. So we say, when we talk about the fa'il, we say fa'il marfu'. Here we would say bid-dhamma. Bid-dhamma. Marfu' bid-dhamma. Or marfu' bil-fi'l wa alamatu raf'ihi ad-dhamma. Right? And that's further on down the line. But Tara al-usfuru, Jar al-hisanu, La'ib al-waladu, Ya'umu al-samaku, Yalsa'u al-ba'udu, wa ta'kulu al-bintu. All of these are fa'ils. And all of them are marfu'. A fa'il is always marfu'. So we said yesterday when we talked about al-bayt, Jamil, when I, for instance, I put that. But let me say something here. Let me say something. When, for instance, al-usfur, Jamil. Al-usfuru jamilun. Usfur here is not the fa'il. Usfur here is the mubtada, the subject. It's called the subject, the mubtada. It's not called the fa'il. The fa'il, it's called that after a verb. Whenever you have a fi'l, a verb, you must have a fa'il. And so that's what it's called here. Even though technically, al-usfur jamil, wa tara al-usfur, it's the same bird, it's the same thing, but the usfur here in our example in the book is the fa'il. It's the doer of the verb. Here, the usfur, al-usfur, is the mubtada, the something that the sentence is beginning with. It's the subject of the sentence. Here, al-usfur is the doer of the verb. Right? Okay, let me see. Let me get my book so I don't have to scroll down. Inshallah ta'ala. Now I'm going to show you something though. Now all of these examples in our book are nouns. And Islamic is not on the scale of fa'il. These are actually like names of something. A samak is the name of that thing in the sea that has gills and eats worms, right? That's the samak. The ba'ud is the thing that flies around and sucks blood. The bint is the one that you have a girl versus a boy, right? Usfur is that thing that flies around, it's small, it's pretty, it chirps. The hisan is the thing you ride on, right? These are names of animals, or names of something. Al-walid, it's a boy. But when you get into the fa'il itself, and this is what I wanted to focus on more. First off, from this rule, let's go down to the rule. Al-fa'il, ismun, is a noun. Marfu', Marfu doesn't always mean Dhamma, and we'll learn that. Sometimes it could be a wow, or sometimes it can be a noon, or sometimes it could be an aleph. That's the sign of marfu. But the foundational form of marfu, the original form, the foundational form is a Dhamma. But sometimes that Dhamma can be replaced with a wow, a noon, or an aleph. For instance, we see Muslim. You see Muslim. Muslimun. Now, if I want to say two Muslims, I say what? Musliman. What happened to, and I know it's not connected for some reason, I don't know why it's doing that, but Musliman. What happened to my Dhammas?
Came a noon. Aleph and a noon, one of them.
No, came an aleph. Right? Muslimun, plural.
Wow.
It became the noon. No, it became the, hold up, let me see. No, it became the wow, you're right. It became the wow. And it becomes a noon in
Muslimin.
In verbs. No. See, in Muslimin,
yeah.
That ya is a replacement for either a fatha or a kasra. Because you have Muslimun, Musliman. I don't know why it's not writing. Give me 1 second. Let me get here. You have Muslim. Right? It became Musliman. Right? Muslimun. Muslimun. So here it was replaced with an aleph, and here it was replaced with a wow. Then you have Musliman. If something was in the, for instance, Ra'aytu Musliman. Ra'aytu Musliman. I saw Ra'aytu Musliman. I saw a Muslim. So what did you see? I saw a Muslim. It's going to be mansoob. But if I saw two Muslims, I would say Muslimaini. Muslimaini. And I replaced my fatha with a ya. Why didn't it change? Yeah. And if I said Muslimina, Raitu Muslimina, I saw Muslims. Muslimina. Right? Then I replaced it with give me 1 second. If I'm up, man, before I get myself confused like that, man.
And that's supposed to be a fatha over that Muslimin.
Which one?
You got the red circle around the ya.
Muslimaini.
Okay,
On the ya should be nothing.
It's a
right.
It's a cone, right? Okay.
Right. Okay. We have Salam. Okay, it's the, so then the, okay, the ya, the aleph. Here, Muslimaini, it's the ya as well. Right? And then if I said Muslimin, like marartu, I passed by, be Muslimin, then I would say Muslimain. Right? Again, replaced with the ya, and Muslimina, again with the ya. So sometimes there is something that can be, let me see, where's the noon? The noon, okay, that's in a film about it. Ismu Asma al-Khamsa. For instance, we have the word abun. Ab. No, it's not a shadda. Abun, father. Ab. When we say abu, this wow is now in place of our dhamma. And we say abba, this alif is in place of our fatha. When we say abi, right, then this ya is in place of the kasra. So we have to have different signs. It could be an alif, it could be a wow, it could be a noon. Besides the dhamma, an alif, a wow, and a noon besides the dhamma. So marfu' doesn't just mean dhamma. It means a dhamma or what takes the place of the dhamma. So we could have a wow, a noon, or an alif, as we saw in Muslimun, and as we see in Musliman. As for the noon, then that comes in a verb, and we're not talking about verbs right now, right? This happens in a verb. The dhamma can be replaced with a noon inside a verb, and we'll talk about that in the future, inshallah. تقدمه الفعل. So a noun, which is marfu', which was preceded by a verb. That's the fa'il. وَدَلَّ عَلَى الَّذِي فَعَلَ الْفِعْلِ. And it points or it shows the one who did. فَعَلَ, did the verb. The one who did the verb. So we could say the same thing if we went back up here. We could say Tara Muhammad, Tara Muhammad. Muhammad flew. As an example, wouldn't make sense unless he's on an airplane or something. But as an example, Tara Muhammad. Now Muhammad is the fa'il. He's the one who did it. But it's not on the scale of fa'il. If we want to know the scale of fa'il, what a person does, then this is what I was writing down when you guys came into the class. Every scale has a different fa'il. A different fa'il that you will make up from the verb itself. So we could say, for instance, here we could say, Darasa Ahmed. Right? Darasa Ahmed. Ahmed taught. Darasa, to teach. Darasa with a shadda on a ra. Darasa Ahmed. Or we could say Darasa al-Mudarris. Al-Mudarris, which is the teacher. And that's what we're talking about, how to get the fa'il from something. So for instance, we have someone who submitted, and we'll get there inshallah, I'll show you, right? Someone who believed, then there's a way. So we could say Amana Ahmed. Or we could say Amana al-Mu'min. The believer believed. The submitter submitted. So on and so forth. Right? We could say, I'm trying to think. Shariba Ahmed. Or we could say Shariba al-Sharib. Meaning the one who drinks. So how do we get the one who drinks, the one who sits, the one who runs, the one who sits, the one who stands, the one who does the verb? Not necessarily the name of the person, but the, I don't know how you would word it in English, but the generic title of that. You understand? Like Tara, a player, the bird. is an example. You understand? Tara, right? And that's how we're going to try to get to, inshallah, here. So we have number one. Let me erase this page. Number one, form one, I didn't write it down because, and these are for 3-letter roots that I'm telling you, not 4-letter roots and 5-letter roots. They're different. But most words are 3-letter roots, so that's what we learn first to make it easy. So for instance, we have jalasa. We have shariba. We have waqafa. We have amila. We have alima. Okay, let's look at these. The way we're going to do that is we're going to put it on a scale of fa'ala, and then we're going to say fa'il. We're going to say the same way we did it. We add this alif and the kasra there with the dhammas. We're going to do the same thing. Jalisun, the one who sits or sat, the one who sits. Shariba, sharib, sharibun, the one who drinks. Waqafa, to stop. Waqif, meaning the one who's standing, right? Or the one who's stopping, but the one who's standing. Because if he was moving and he stops, he's standing, right? Amila, to act, right? To do a good deed or to do a deed. Amil, the one who knows something. Alima, to know. The one who knows something. Alim. You understand?
No.
So in general, for 3-letter roots, this is the general way to make a file, although there could be more than one file. Right? There could be more than one file. Right? Jalis, Jarib. So let me think of another one. Dakhala. Kharaja. Akala. We'll do the same thing. Qala. Even though that's a weak one. That's a good one though. Qala. Daraba. Okay. Dakhala, the one who enters. Dakhil. That means inside. He's inside. That's the one who's inside. Even not necessarily a person, a thing. It could be a thing as well. So dakhil is something that's inside. Right? Something that went inside. Something that goes inside. Dakhil. Kharij. Something that goes outside. Kharij. Something that eats. Now we already have a alif here, so if I add another alif, it's just going to make it a hamza. I mean a madda here. Akil. Akil. Right? Now we have a alif already here in qala. So I'm going to say I got to have something to hold my. I'm going to add my alif here like I would add here in kharaja and dakhala jalasa. I'm going to add my alif. But this one, I need something to hold the kasra. The seat that holds the kasra is a ya without dots. So qa'il, the one who says something. Qa'il, the speaker, the one who's saying something. Qa'il. And darib, the one who beats or hits something. Right? Darib. And it goes so on. So you got kataba. Kataba, the one who writes is a katib. Right? That's the secretary, the one who writes. Katib. The one who used to write for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What do they call him? what do they call them? The ones who used to write for him, they call them scribes.
That's you talking about in Arabic.
In English. Scribes, right? Scribes, the one who used to write down the revelation for the prophet, katib. He used to write it down. So any of these words that we can come up with, you understand? I'm trying to think of some more words right now, you know. Saqa yasuqu. Huh? Yeah, sa'ala. Sa'ala. Sa'il. We have to change this alif here to a ya without dots, because that's the seat for the hamza, which is for the kasra. Sa'ilun. Right? So this is how the fa'il for form number 1 works. Fa'il. It's easy to remember. Form number 1 is fa'il. That's it. Now this is where it gets a little complicated, except form number 1 could have more than one fa'il, could have more than one way to make it, and this way, this fa'il doesn't always fit across the board. You understand? For form number 1. But mostly. Whereas in forms 2 through 10, one way to do it, even though there could be another way, but this one way is the one way that's acceptable and mostly known. So we have darrasa, yudarrisu, which is to teach. We have our masdar here. I added this column here just for, you know, benefit. We're not talking about masdars right now, right? But the masdar, which is the verbal noun, to teach, teaching, right? Teaching. You have the word mudarris. And I wrote it in red, the vowels, because this one and this one, they don't have a maf'ul. They don't have an object, right? They don't have an object. Number 7 and number 9, they don't have an object. They don't have it. But this is the fa'il. This is the doer of the verb, right? And the opposite of the, if I change my kasra to a fatha, that becomes your maf'ul. And we'll talk about that next week, inshallah ta'ala. But if I change mudarris to mudarras, I'm talking about the thing that was taught, like, for instance, the lesson, right? The lesson. And we'll talk about that when we get to the maf'ul next week, inshallah ta'ala. But the exact, my point here is that I wrote it in red to make sure that we put our kasras there. Mudarris is the teacher. Then for fa'ala, form number 3, you have hajara. We all know the one who makes hijrah. Hajara. Yuhajiru. You have muhajara, could be your masdar, the meaning that the immigrating, or hijrah, it could also be, which we know, right? Hijrah. And the person who does so is the muhajir, like the muhajirun, right? Wal ansar, muhajir, the one who makes immigration. Aslama yuslimu, Islam. Islam is the masdar, right? And the one who does Islam is a Muslim. The one who aslama is the Muslim. And this goes for the same for amana yu'minu, iman, mu'min. Ahsana yuhsinu, ihsan, muhsin, right? That's form 4 for all of them. The one who does that action is a Muslim, a mu'min, a muhsin. They're all on that same form. Now see, the blessing of knowing this is, okay, let me get another chart up here. I say Aslama, yuslimu, aslama, yuslimu, Islam, Muslim. Okay? Then I say amana, because we have two weak letters here, a ya or two alifs, so it becomes a madda here. Amana, yu'minu, yu'minu, and right, mu'min. Okay, then we have ahsana, yuhsinu, yuhsinu, ihsan. Right? These are all hamzas here. Muhsin. Okay, now if we just look at these three, I would say some of us might know Aslama. He accepted Islam. Some of us might know that. And I underline, brother, because it's at the top, it's harder. But I'll do that though. Alright? Aslama. Some of us might get that. But Islam we know. And Muslim we know. Amana might be a little hard on us, but we probably have that from the Quran. Amana. And yu'minu we know. And then iman and mu'min we know. Ihsan and muhsin we know, but we probably didn't know ahsana wa yuhsinu. We probably didn't know those. So the beauty of knowing one of these, like amana, knowing one of them all the way across the board, then when I don't know what is the present tense for the verb for the Muslim, I can compare that to yu'min and just replace the ya is the ya there. I replace the weak letter, which is the alif here in amana. I replace that with the sound letter, which is seen, and then the meme with my lam from Islam, and my meme with the noon from iman. So now I got yuslimu from that. And then I can go back and get ahsana. So once you learn, for instance, if you did it by the chart form, for example, and you did af'ala, yuf'ilu, if'al, muf'il. Af'ala, yuf'ilu, if'al, muf'il. Once I learn that chart, af'ala, yuf'ilu, if'al, muf'il, then when I see anything, no matter if it's the fa'il, the masdar, the past present tense, or the past tense verb, I can fill in the rest of them. And now when I learn one word, I have now learned 4 words. And since I can conjugate ahsana, ahsanta, ahsanti, ahsantu, ahsanna, ahsana, ahsanat, ahsantum. Now when I learn, and I can do the same thing in the present tense, yuhsinu, tuhsinu, uhsinu, nuhsinu, yuhsinuna, yuhsinna, tuhsinuna, and I can conjugate those present tense verbs. Now I learned one new word. And because I can do all 14 forms of the past, and all 14 forms of the present, and I know the masdar, and I know the maf'ul, that's 14. That's 1, 1, 1. I have learned 31 words by learning one word. You understand? So when I learned this chart, muhajir, and I put, for instance, another verb up here, safara. Safara, to travel. Safara, yusafiru, musafara, or safar. And the person who travels is the musafir. And I could do that across the board with my verbs. And now I just learned, for instance, give me a word that you guys might know. I don't know. You know, I'm just trying to think of something, man. I don't know. Form 2. Let me see.
What form?
I don't know. Any form. It goes for the same thing. From like, we already did this. Allama. Okay, allama. Right? Allama. To teach. To make someone know. Allama yu'allimu ta'aleem. And the one who teaches is also called, besides the mudarris, is called the what?
Muallim.
Muallim. So when I say, man, I know the word muallim, but I didn't think of allama yu'allimu. But now I know that form, fa'ala yufa'ilu taf'il mufa'il. And then I know darrasa yudarrisu tadris mudarris. Once I know that, then I can take any form, any verb. For instance, let me see, I have one pulled up. Let me hear. One who smokes. Dakhana. He smoked. Yudakhinu. He smokes. Tadkhin. Smoking. So you'll see in the airport, tadkhin mamnu'. With a cigarette with a little smoke. Tadkhin mamnu'. It's prohibited. Smoking is prohibited here. And the one who smokes is up.
Dakhin.
Mudakhin. Mudakhin. You see that?
No, I mean that's.
And you got anything. You got someone who brings good news. Mubashir. But how do I say he brought good news? Bashara.
Bashar.
How do I say he's bringing good news? Yubashiru. You see what I'm saying? Mubashir, we know Mubashir, one who brings good news. But I might not have known the verb, or I might not have thought about it. Bashara yubashiru. But now that I know it's on that form, Mubashir, then now I can go back and find my present, my past, my masdar, my maf'ul, and all of that. So I can have I'm trying to think of a word. Okay. What's the word of the one who does explanation of the Quran? What's he called?
Mufassir.
Mufassir. What's the verb? Fassara yufassiru. Tafsir. You understand? Is your masdar. Tafsir. So you can pick all that up. Right? So now I'm going to give you one. Let me see. Let's see if you could tell me. I don't know. I'm just looking, man. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out to find a good one for you. Okay. Who knows the word for the person who does cleaning? Just off the top of your head without looking. Do you know it?
That's the word for cleaning.
From nadif.
That's the nadif would be clean, right? That would be the word like a noun. Something is clean.
Nadafa.
Okay, نظف is the verb. نظف, ينظف.
منظف.
Munazzif, the one who cleans something. Right? The Quran is munazzil. It was something that was sent down. Nazzala yunazzilu, tanzil, munazzil, and so on and so forth. Anyway, we don't have a lot of time left to go through all 10 of these forms, and I didn't even finish one of the forms here. The form number 10, right? Form number 10, which would be like what we probably know, astaghfirullah, right? If we did that one, right? It's pretty easy, right? If we just did astaghfara, 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 yustaghfiru, yustaghfiru. The masdar is istighfar. See, many of these things we know, we just don't know we know them yet. Istighfarun. And the one who seeks forgiveness is the mustaghfir. Right? Mustaghfir. And it goes on across the board, man. If you have whatever form, let me see what else is another one we would know. For instance, istakhdama, to use something. Istakhdama, yustakhdimu, istikhdam, mustakhdim, the one who is used, or the one who is using something, right? Something would use would be mustakhdam, with a fatha on the top. And this is the maf'ul. And so because of that, you learn how to multiply your vocabulary. You know a word on form 10. Ista'inu, right? Ista'inu. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ista'ana yusta'in isti'ana, right? Musta'in, like this. It goes on where you can just multiply your vocabulary by knowing this fa'il. And it's easy for form 1. Form 1 is easy. Fa'il. It's always going to be fa'il. Form 1. Right? Where was that? Form 1, fa'il. So if you have just a simple 3 letters, it doesn't have any alifs, no shaddas, no ties in the beginning to change it around, you want to know how to do it, then you do it on the fa'il form. So someone who has aqala, intellect, something intellect, aqil, right? Someone who has intellect, we have aqil and ghayrul aqil, like things which have intellect and things which don't have intellect, right? Something which is batala, false, right? Something which is false. We have batil. Naam. You have something which is okay, we have darasa. We don't use this one much, but there's a book like that though. Darasa. Daris is a student, just like talaba is talib, right? Abada, abid, right? Fasada,